States after World War II. The rapid growth in population was due to soldiers and servicemen and women coming home to their families for the first time in possibly months. This affected numerous aspects of the United States, such as society, civil rights, television, music, and politics. Due to the national population increase, more cities became too crowded, whereas farmlands became less populous. A common ground was found between the urban cities and rural farmland, the suburbs. William Gerard Levitt, born February 11, 1907, is known as the father of modern suburbia. As a real estate developer for Lewitt & Sons, William Levitt was shocked to discover the city of Chicago had been selling its retired trolley cars to homes. Along with trolley cars, some 50,000 returning veterans had taken up residence in Arlington. Levitt knew he had to take action and, with the help of his family, decided to convert over 1,000 acres of potato fields 20 miles outside of Manhattan into a small living community. This was known as suburbanization. Suburbanization can be defined as a population shift from central urban areas on the outskirts of cities known as the suburbs. In the 1950s, many people transitioned from city life to a more centralized suburban life where parents planned to raise children and start a family in a safer area. All houses were sold with a mortgage of $8,000. However, there were no fences, you had to take care of your own yard, and only whites were allowed. Due to the extremely efficient building team, the first Levitt-town consisted of 17,000 homes, and from 1950 to 1960, over 60 million people migrated from outside the city.
In the 50s, many companies started to use ads in popular magazines as well as on their billboards to increase their sales. Because of this, the economy grew 37% in just those 10 years. Another factor to increase materialism of Americans was their increased standard of living. By the 50s, the poverty rate had decreased majorly from about 34% to about 11%, where we still are around today. Life expectancy had also increased. In just 10 years, people were living approximately 6 years longer than in the 40s. This was mostly caused by better medical technology, higher incomes, programs of public health and personal hygiene, and many other important factors.
This all began in the 1950s when the television erupted and became like the iPhone in the early 2000s. Everyone had to get their hands on it as quick as possible. This increased television use came with a decrease of radio use, and we can see today that most people, other than maybe your grandparents, rarely listen to radio talk shows.
In the 1950s, the television was one of the most important products made. At the end of World War II, there were only a few thousand wealthy Americans that could afford a television. At the start of the decade, about 3 million people wanted a television, and by the end of it, there were nearly 55 million. There were about 500 shows available to choose from, such as I Love Lucy, The Ed Sullivan Show, and Leave It to Beaver. It became part of the culture to watch television with your family. Reagan had a big influence in movies and television. When his role began to slow down in the mid-1950s, he turned to television where he hosted and acted in many programs.
Social conformity is people wanting to be like everybody else. This means that both the youth and the adults wanted to follow the norms of what other people were doing rather than acting out and going on their own. 3 developments that led to social conformity were cars, TV, and fashion through media influence. They saw on the television what the popular trends and decided to go with what they thought was popular.
Cars changed society in the 1950s more than any other product in the decade. The more widely used cars became, the more they began to affect the daily lives of Americans. It had a huge influence in family life, and it also allowed for a more mobile society. With so many Americans owning a car, the demand for an interstate highway started, and President Eisenhower asked for it to be created, and it was.
It changed drastically in the 50s. When music began, it was very patriotic songs, such as the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy to rock and roll, such as Elvis Presley, also known as the King of Rock and Roll. Elvis integrated rhythm and blues, gospel, and country music to create rock and roll. As the time began to change, there were fears about the youth during the 50s. Adults feared that drugs, sex, and rock and roll would influence the youth in a negative way. They didn't want the youth to change from how they acted previously, wanting to look and dress like their parents. One important person that had an impact on the youth was Elvis Presley. Parents' controversy was over his vulgar dance moves during his television appearances. Also, there was an increase in drugs and alcohol that teens began to use. Diversification of music was linked to the increasingly prominent diversity of Americans and the desire for true freedom of expression.
The 1950s was filled with numerous civil rights movements, as well as infringements upon these rights. One of the most infamous moments of this era was the lynching of Emmett Till. Till was a 14-year-old African-American boy. He was born and raised in Chicago by a middle-class family. In August of 1955, Till's uncle came up to visit the family and insisted on bringing Till back to Mississippi to see his cousins. Initially, Till's mother was against the idea, but but she reluctantly agreed to let him go. On August 19th, he went into a small shop to buy bubblegum and was accused of whistling at Carolyn Bryant, a white woman who was married to the owner of the store. Only 4 days later, Till was kidnapped by Bryant's husband, where he was beaten and shot. After his death, Bryant was put on trial for the murder of Till. At the time, only white men were allowed to serve on juries. Despite all of the evidence pointing towards Bryant's guilt of the gruesome crime, he was acquitted of all charges. Carolyn Bryant later came forward and said that Till never whistled at her or flirted with her. The murder of Emmett Till, along with the acquittal of Bryant, was the catalyst for many civil rights events that followed.
Known acts that occurred during the civil rights movement was Miss Rosa Parks, an African-American woman in Montgomery, Alabama, who refused to give up her seat to a white man on a bus. African-Americans were told to always sit at the back of the bus and give up their seats to any white citizen if their seat remained. But Miss Parks was one of the first to not succumb to this unfair treatment. Rosa was put in jail, which then proceeded to erupt protests and boycotts, which further made the civil rights